Okay, so moving on then, we have looked back this morning on the successes of Thrive across the last 10 years, and it's really quite poignant that Ruth does the last 10 years and then I start talking about the next 10 years. I will have a plan by the time I start, I promise you. Formal evaluation of impact, strength and challenges are included in the Thrive report, which is what that QR code links you to. It's a good report and it does give you detail in regard to where Thrive has been, but also highlights where it needs to go because the challenges are not over. Evaluation of the Plymouth context, so it does reflect within the report around the external factors like Ruth talked about, which was COVID, but also talking about the challenges in regards to austerity and cost of living. It feels like we've been in austerity for a really long time, and I don't feel like we're going to come out of it anytime soon, so we do need to think really innovatively on how we achieve the best outcomes for our residents with the resources that we've got. I'm not sure more is going to come. It also reflects the state of the city and the priorities of the population. So I recognise that Plymouth is effectively two cities pushed together with real challenges in regard to inequality. There's inequalities across the city, but some of the areas fare better than others, and trying to create that degree of fairness and equity is really important. So we gave you a taster this morning, which was the new framework for Thrive. You'll remember the old version, which was the kind of the hands that linked together, which was the 4, 4, and 54. So this very much reflects healthy body and healthy mind. You need to have both to be able to thrive. But it also touches on things we've talked about this morning and this afternoon in a variety of ways, which is having a healthier place. So how do we make Plymouth and all the organisations and settings in it healthier to help those residents to live and thrive the best lives they can, but also thinking about our communities and the assets within them. So as we've talked about today, we are very much looking at a strength-based assets approach, which is what's good rather than what's bad, but then how do we harness and build on what's good so that the things that aren't so great get better. Okay, so the new principles are, so we've very imaginatively used the word thrive now to describe that we will do this together. This is a great strength in the Plymouth network of Thrive, and I recognise that there's a whole host of organisations represented there, and probably some organisations that aren't represented yet, so we need to think about how we build them together. It's very much about using a whole system approach, which is getting to recognise what we have here in Plymouth, but then how do we then look at the challenges that are very Plymouth specific. It's human-centered, which is meaning that we focus on the complexity of life. Everybody lives a different life. Resilience means different things. How I look after my resilience and how you look after your resilience is very different. But there are some common things we can do so that we can all thrive. It is about looking at how we work and engage with our residents in a compassionate and trauma-informed way, very much putting lived experience at the start. Generic programs to improve health outcomes don't necessarily work because everybody is living their own life, and we need to make sure we reflect that in the programs that we deliver. It is about being respectful, so you can't run a program like Thrive without putting residents in the center of it. I think sometimes we get so caught up on doing things that we forget that actually who we're doing it for, and actually the resident themselves has a voice in shaping what we do for our communities. It's absolutely focused on inequalities, and we've touched on that this afternoon as well. So this is about tailoring our work so that a blanket one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work for every community, and we do need to tailor them. And I think any restriction in resources shouldn't be a barrier to that. It's about being versatile. We are learning organisations. I think there's almost an opportunity to try things, but learn when they don't necessarily go right. Sometimes we do things and they work really well, and we should do more of that. And sometimes we do things and we don't work, and I think there's an opportunity to learn from that so we can focus ourselves a little bit better. And ultimately, it's about being evidence-based. So the report for Thrive was evidence-based because it demonstrated what the program had achieved, but also gave recommendations on how the program should evolve. And we'll continue to do that monitoring and evaluation throughout the next 10 years so that I can then stand here in 10 years' time and say about all the wonderful things we've done. Okay, so in relation to Thrive leadership, so it is a network, but the council is taking its responsibility in regards to leadership. So it does say take overall leadership, and I think that wording is probably slightly wrong, but I think it's about recognizing that the council is a facilitator of organizations, so we're really happy to be in that space. We will help by providing the evidence and data to the network to improve knowledge. Data is important, but so is insight, and that's where the resident comes from, because what I might think is important for a resident or a community, the resident or the community themselves may not think that's important to them, and we need to go with the energy, which will improve overall health and well-being. As we've talked about, a whole systems approach. So what does health and well-being look like in regard to residents? And where some people may be focused very much on health conditions, actually, it could be the challenges of the street you live on, and can you park outside your house, or can you walk down your street safely? That has a real impact on how people feel safe in their communities. We will continue to build and support the Thrive network, which I know is massive. So thank you to all of you that are involved with the network. It couldn't be done without you. So although we will provide some leadership and some facilitation, the work is really down to you guys. We will identify and support the work of the themes to bring the focus to different areas of health inequality. Health inequality work in Plymouth is incredibly strong. It's one of the key things that attracted me to coming to Plymouth, was to build on the great work that you're doing and hopefully bring some different examples of things I've done elsewhere. We will be developing a monitoring and evaluation approach to inform the network. So again, very much making the network a learning network, so we can build upon the stuff that's done well and maybe dial down the things that aren't done so well. The key thing about the network is really about ensuring connection between people and programs. The role of the Director of Public Health, in my view, Ruth, you may think differently, is just connecting people up, because actually that's our role, is to see where the strengths are and how we can maximize on that. So what's next? So building a picture of Thrive Network ask and offers. Identify themes and topics for future focus and develop work programs around these. As you've seen highlighted today, people in Plymouth, you're living a long life, but you're not necessarily living a great healthy one for about like 20 years. That's really stark. So a real core focus of Thrive has to be how we improve healthy life expectancy for women. That's a real key thing that we need to focus on. As we said, we will support the network with data and evidence and training as needed, and we will establishing the monitoring and evaluation, because that's really key, is how do we know that we're being successful? Now, when it comes to health inequality, we know that we can't change that overnight, but everything has an impact. But that's why having a program that is 10 years old or 20 years old by the time we do that reflection again, and I'm sure we will reflect on Thrive again in the next 10 years, is very much working out where we're going and how have we been successful. So the monitoring and evaluation plan is almost finalized, and part of this afternoon's program will be working through that in a little bit more detail. It was really brilliant to see Michael Marmot speaking this morning. I feel like I speak to him? I don't. I feel like I see him very often. I've spoken to him once, and I was in very much awe, because he is a public health guru. And he will always say that when you're looking at trying to do things to improve health outcomes, if you're not doing something, do something. And if you're doing something, can you build on it and do it better? And he didn't say that today, which is a real shame, because that was going to be my final hook for this afternoon. So I've said it for him. We are looking forward to working with you. I am looking forward to working with you. So, Plymouth hometown boy, I've come back. I'm really looking forward to being able to contribute to the outcomes for Plymouthians. I am one, and it's really great to be able to contribute to that. And maybe now my mum might understand what I do for a living. So, as I said, to summarise, we look forward to working with you and to address health inequalities across Plymouth and making Plymouth a healthier place for everyone. Thank you very much, everybody.